to episode 2 of Hoop and Helmets. I'm Lucas DeVries. My partner Brody Jacobson is absent for the day. He's out with the flu. Unfortunate for him, but let's start on the Week 8 recap from last week in college football. First, we have Oklahoma State versus BYU. That was such a great game on Friday night. BYU, undefeated season. They have Rhett Slaff as their quarterback. He's been playing some great ball. Oklahoma State trying to play spoiler as they've been having a terrible year. Came into BYU, but BYU, they got it done. I mean, it was not pretty, but the season is unblemished. As we move on to the next game, we have Miami versus Louisville. I was saying Louisville could upset Miami last week as Miami's look shaky, but I didn't pick it because I knew Cam Ward was him. So I stuck with Miami. Miami got it done. They just scored so many points. It was like the all-star game out there. Louisville definitely had a chance. Pick 6 was called back. Miami sneaks out again. I mean, they're lucky. A lot of people have been saying the refs have helped them. So, Alabama versus Tennessee. That was a great game. The rematch of a couple years ago, and Tennessee won again. I mean, Alabama just has not looked good these past couple weeks. You could say maybe the Nick Saban effect, him not being there. But I think it's more Milroe. He hasn't been making great decisions at all. Ryan Williams has looked pretty good, but he can't carry the squad. Tennessee's defense looked pretty stout. And Nico was making some good decisions. Solid game by him. So they snuck out the dub 24-17. LSU played Arkansas at night. Many people thought Arkansas could pull it out. They have a great home field environment trying to pull off back-to-back upsets. LSU is a great team. Great quarterback in Nussmeier and Kyron Lacey as a receiver. They won by about 15 in that game. Kind of controlled it the entire way. And then Michigan played Illinois in a weird 3:30 game where we knew it was going to be low scoring the entire time. But Michigan, they just don't have a quarterback, and Illinois does. That's the difference between those two teams. So Illinois got it done. Altmaier leads the team. They still only have one loss, and they're going to take on Oregon this week. That's going to be a huge matchup for them. And then, as Brody said last week, we had the Goliath of the schedule in Texas versus Georgia. So Texas, they were the number one overall team, right? And the lower seed has won in all of these matchups. Alabama versus Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State. And the trend continues as Georgia pulls off the upset. Was not surprising at all to me. I think Georgia's the best team in college football right now. Great, complete roster. Beck hasn't even been playing well, and they're still playing that good. If he starts making better decisions, Georgia's going to be really dangerous, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. On the other end, for Texas, they put Arch in the game for a little bit. He was okay. He can run the ball more, but Ewers is definitely the play for them. So I kind of liked how they went back to them. They tried to make a comeback, but they came up short. So we're gonna go to our spread picks from last week. Quick overview. I went 4-2. Brody went 2-4. I got my confidence right, and he didn't. But we both got our super dogs wrong last week. So I moved. Now I'm up 35-23 on him in our spread picks for the year. But we're tied in our super dogs, both 0-1. That's a tough start for both of us. So now let's get to our spread picks for this week. Yeah, I'm gonna quickly go over Brody's as he's out. He still made his picks though. So he picked Vandy plus 18.5. I like that a lot. I have that too. He went Utah minus 3.5. Auburn plus 2.5. Of course, he's an Auburn fan. Fresno minus 4.5. Makes sense too. Boise minus 3.5. Yep, that game's gonna be a great game to watch Friday night. And then Miami minus 21 is the confidence. That's really risky. Miami's a great team. Florida State's trash, but still, Miami, they've been playing a lot of close games. I don't really understand why he picked that as his confidence, but okay. So for me, I had Vandy plus 18.5 as well. I picked LSU underdogs against Texas A&M. I think they're the better team. I think they're going to win it. So I picked them. Kansas State minus 10. I have Colorado minus 6.5. BYU, I have them plus 3. And then for my confidence, I have Illinois plus 22. They get 22 points against Oregon's really good. But 22 points is insane. That's insanity. Come on. This Illinois team is good. That's such an easy pick, I feel like. All right, so this week, Brody picked, for his super dog, he picked Oregon State. They're playing Cal this week in a old Pac-12 rematch, and they're getting 10 points. I like that pick, actually. And then for me and my Super Dogs, also Illinois, which goes along with my confidence pick. I just think they're getting way too many points. So yeah, those are our spread picks for the week. Hoping to have another good week like last week. So now let's go to our preview here for week 9. All right, so we have a sneaky good week here. A lot of big matchups that have some great playoff implications. And right now, a huge one, Syracuse versus Pitt. Pitt 1-0, Syracuse 1 loss. I'm looking at it right now, and it's 24-0 Pitt. Who saw this coming? Not me. I knew Pitt was probably a better team, but 24, that is wild. I mean, I think Pitt, some stuff happens. They could be in like the top 14 looking for a potential huge matchup versus Clemson in a couple weeks. I know that's going to have some big ACC implications as long as if Miami and SMU keep winning, the loser of that game looks like they're going to be out of the ACC playoffs, so that's going to be huge. But that's not this week. We'll get to that later. Friday night, humongous game for the group of 5. I'm really rooting for UNLV to win this for Army's sake to get in. But Boise State with Ashton Jeanty. If you guys don't know who Ashton Jeanty is, you have to search up his highlights. He's like Tavon Austin 2.0. This guy is insane. Every time he touches the ball, it's like a touchdown. Like, you cannot stop the guy. So that's going to be huge for them. But UNLV, they got a great squad too. I mean, they're 1 loss, and they've had a bunch of Power 5 competitors so far. So that should be a battle on Friday night. And then Notre Dame versus Navy. Speaking of another group of 5 team looking to make the playoff, we have Navy and Army. Army's off this week, but we got Navy with a huge game against Notre Dame at 12 o'clock. And it's at Navy. If Navy can pull it off, that would be so great. I really hope that happens. But if I had to pick it, I'm gonna go with Notre Dame. They've been looking good recently, and I can't deny that. But I'm really hoping for Navy to pull it off. We have Oregon versus Illinois. So, as I was saying earlier, Illinois is 22 points for this game. 22! I don't know how you give them 22 points if they're a top 20 team in the country. That is absurd. Oregon, yeah, they're really good, but I think Oregon will win it at most by like 17, but Illinois still covers the spread. So that's I don't know how that even happens. And BYU is traveling to UCF, and UCF has a losing record right now, and they're favored to be undefeated BYU. That makes no sense. UCF look good. I think KJ Jefferson's injured, or they have some quarterback problem. Their backup's really good though, but BYU has Retzlaff. He's been looking really good, leading some game-winning drives this year. They had one huge win against SMU that looks great now earlier in the year. I think BYU is going to get it done. I want them to win it, but yeah, they are on upset alert. I still don't get how they're underdogs though, but it should be a close one. And then next up we have Missouri versus Bama, 2 very underwhelming teams this year. Bama was supposed to be the top dog. Alabama, the best football school, right? They've not looked any part of that this year. Almost losing to South Carolina. They lost to Vanderbilt, of course. That was the big one. Vanderbilt is a good team, though. And then last week, Tennessee. So they're right now they got to get some big wins if they want to make the college football playoff. And it starts this week against Missouri. Missouri, Brady Cook, he's still a great quarterback. He got banged up last week against Auburn, came back, led them in the fourth quarter to win the game, saved my confidence pick last week. So I'm really thankful for that. And I think Missouri, they still have 1 loss, which means they're definitely in contention, but they have not looked good at all. I don't see the streak keep going, so I want to pick Alabama, but I have to stop picking Alabama because they keep losing. So I don't know. I'm still gonna go with Bama, but just weird how bad those 2 teams have been this year when they were supposed to be top 5 teams. And then in the nightcap we have Penn State in, I guess you could say, a trap game here at Wisconsin. Wisconsin has been looking great recently, and they are playing a Penn State team who's ranked number 3 in the country right now, which they shouldn't because they play nobody, but they're undefeated, so I guess you could put them there. Penn State has a lot of their big games at home this year. This one isn't one of them. I don't know if you consider it a big game, but Wisconsin's definitely not a bad team by any means. I want Wisconsin to pull it off. I think they have a chance, but if the Martians had the death beam pointed at me, I mean, I would probably pick Penn State because they're just probably the better team. But yeah, it's definitely on like possible upset on the upset meter. And then the last game we have LSU traveling to A&M, Kyle Field, two of the best stadiums in college football. I could see it going either way, but I'm gonna roll with the Tigers here. I love Garrett Nussmeier, Brian Kelly, not my favorite coach, but it's fine, and I'm going with the Tigers here. Lee Corso. He's there, but we're back. We're back here, and we have LSU versus A&M. I already started explaining this game. I think that LSU is going to come out on top, but I do think that A&M will definitely put up a fight. I think they'll put up a fight. I just don't think they're going to come out there with the KO. I got LSU winning that one. And now we're going to rotate here. We're going to go to some college basketball as the season starts in about 2 weeks. We're going to go over some great non-conference games. I'm going to go over my ACC and Big East predictions, and we'll be going over Big 12, SEC, and Big 10 next week back on the podcast. But let's start it off here with some top-tier non-conference games we have to start of the season. I'm just going to go over 6 today, but there's many more we have in store. So first we're going to start off with Baylor and Gonzaga. Both teams preseason top 10 squads. They both got good guard play. Gonzaga's, all their guys are returning pretty much, while Baylor has a couple new pieces, but still they're going to be a great squad. I do think the Zags are going to win this one. I don't think Baylor is going to be tough enough on defense to keep up with the Zags. I see the Zags maybe scoring like 86 and winning this one like 86-79 in more of a high-scoring game. So now we're going to rotate over to UNC taking on Kansas. Kansas probably maybe the top transfer portal class of all time, I would have to guess, because they they literally got everybody. I mean, I don't even know how you stop this team. They got flipping. I think they got they got AJ Storr, they got like Zion Poole, and I'm pretty sure they got all of those guys, a bunch of good guards. I think they're still returning a bunch of the guys like DeJuan Harris, Hunter Dickinson, crazy good big men. DeJuan Harris is like a maestro with the ball. He's insane. But North Carolina, also a great team. Speaking of the guard play, North Carolina, they got some great guards of their own. They have Elliott, Cadeau, R.J. Davis, Ian Jackson coming in from OTE. And then one of their backup guards the other night I saw in a secret scrimmage dropped like 30. I know he's good. So, and they always seem to produce great big men talent. So I think we'll get to this later, but they are going to be my preseason number 1 for the ACC. So that's our second game. And then back to Kansas again. I just went over them. Now they're taking on the other top dog in the ACC, and the Duke Blue Devils. Duke, we all know they're a great home team, but they're playing this one at a neutral site. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it. They got Cooper Flag, as we all know. They have the guy from like Africa who's supposed to be really good. They also they're returning Proctor with some guard experience. So I think they're gonna, and of course they got those white boy shooters who always knock down threes. They're gonna be a force to be reckoned with again in the ACC. But compared to some Big 12 caliber teams like Kansas, maybe Kansas, I see Kansas dropping one of the two to UNC or Duke. I just don't know which one it's gonna be yet, as we haven't really seen any games so far. But yeah, they should both be great games along with Baylor and Gonzaga. And then we have Houston, Bama in the Players Era Festival, which is a great holiday basketball tournament. I'll get into all the holiday basketball tournaments later once we get into maybe the start of the season. I already made a list because I can talk about this stuff all day with all the Thanksgiving tournaments and which ones are going to be the best. The Players Era Festival is up there. They have so many great college teams: San Diego State, Oregon, Creighton, Houston, Alabama. We got to see Rutgers in there, Notre Dame with some great young talent. So this is going to be probably the top tier one out of all the games they have in that tournament. Alabama returning Grant Nelson, Mark Sears, the dynamic duo of March Madness. I'm a Clemson fan, so I know how it felt to get 10 threes bombed on your head by Mark Sears in the second half. Well, and Grant Nelson was out there posterizing Zach Edey, so that team's obviously going to be crazy. But then you got Houston. They always got a great system under Kelvin Sampson. Always got a great defensive squad. I think they have Jamal Shed back this year, which is going to be a huge piece for them. I'm not sure on that, by the way. But, yeah, they're still going to be a great team. I think it's a top 4 preseason matchup. Should be great. And then Brody's going to be happy to have this one here. We have Auburn traveling to Duke. I do think Auburn's a great team. They got J.P. Pegus from the transfer portal. And they still got Janai Broom, one of the Wooden Award preseason favorites. And they also have Chad Baker Mazzara. And they still got Denver Jones, another good guard. So they should definitely be a top-tier SEC squad, probably a top 10 team in the country. Traveling on to Duke with a young talent, although they do have a bit more experience this year than normal. So it definitely will be interesting to see how Duke balances that out when they're used to more young talent on their squad. But I think it's going to be a pro for them instead of a con. I think they're going to really enjoy having some more experience on their basketball team. And then lastly, we have Gonzaga versus UConn in an absolute showdown. The Zags are returning more experience than UConn is by far. But UConn, Dan Hurley, he's such a great coach. They got Liam McNeely, they got Aiden Mahaney from St. Mary's. So they're just gonna be they're gonna be a top 5 team under that program. They're just gonna be good. They got Caravan back. I don't know how he's still there, but he's a great player. They have Sampson, the center. I guarantee you this guy is going to pop off this year. He's one of my guys that is going to jump onto the scene. UConn is going to be a force to be reckoned with once again. The Zags are going to, I think they'll put up a fight. They're definitely going to score some points, but I do think UConn is going to get the last laugh here in my last big non-conference games. And we also have games that aren't scheduled yet in like tournaments like the Maui and the Battle for Atlantis that will happen later in like the finals and stuff. So we'll definitely list those when they're scheduled to happen later on. All right, so now let me get into some of my rankings here for the college basketball start of the season. So first up, I'm going to go with the ACC. So I have North Carolina at 1 over Duke, who I have at 2. These two are interchangeable for me. I just think North Carolina, they're returning more players last year that have experience, like R.J. Davis. Cadeau's going to take a big step up this year. So Seth Trimble, that was the guy who dropped like 40 in the preseason game. He's a menace on defense. So I have him overdue for now. We've got guys like Cooper Flagg who can absolutely ball out, but we're going to wait to see how I feel with them maybe after a couple weeks. All right, here's when maybe some controversy starts. At 3, I have Clemson over Wake at 4, and then Miami at 5. I think these 3 are all going to be pretty good squads. I think Miami and Wake may have more talent than Clemson, but the reason I have Clemson at 3 for now is because there hasn't been any games yet to the 2024-2025 season, and Clemson just made an elite run, which was literally better than every ACC team except for NC State. So I'm going to have them up there for now. And they did only lose 2 guys, and they got some key transfers, so I think they're still going to be a great team. But Wake Forest definitely is the case because they're returning Hunter Salas, who's my preseason ACC Player of the Year. They're also returning the British boy Cam Hildreth, and they got some good transfers like Omaha Bello and stuff. So yeah, they'll be a great team. Maybe they'll finally make the tournament this year. Who knows? Miami was terrible last year. They always get that talent. They have Matthew Cleveland. They're returning Nigel Pack. They also got some key transfers from the portal. So like Jalen Blackman from Stenson, which is such a random school, but he averaged like the most points in D1 last year, so that's going to be a huge transfer. I have them rounding out the top 5. And then here, we get to number 6. We have Louisville. Last year they were horrendous, but they got a new coach, a new system. They got some key players. I think they're just going to take a huge step this year. But number 6 through 11, I all have in like a pack where I can pretty much rank them any way I really want. So number 7, I'm putting Pitt. Pitt, they're always a solid team, always looking to make the tournament, always on that bubble. They're returning Jalen Lowe and Ishmael Leggett, 2 great guards, 2 guys who can get a bucket any day. So that's why I have them at 7. And I dropped Virginia down to 8. I know they were like 5 in the ACC preseason poll, but not having Tony Bennett is a huge deal. That's why I dropped them this low. Tony Bennett's system always found a way to get them to a tournament. They were good a couple years ago. They're just not that caliber anymore. So I think they're going to be more of a middle pack ACC team this year. I have Notre Dame taking a big jump all the way up to number 9. I think Marcus Burton is the real deal. And I know they have Shrewsbury, the coach's son. He's a good player. They have I know they have Carey, a great young player as well. They should definitely be more improved this year, and I think as we get a couple more years, they might sneak their way into like a top 7, top 5 ACC team. Number 10, I have Syracuse. They always have good athletes on their team. They always got some tall guys too. They can always fill the floor. They have that zone they always play, or they used to play. Who knows with the new coach what they're going to do yet. They don't have Judah Mintz anymore, which could be a problem for them because his playmaking ability is gone. I still think they're going to be a middle pack ACC team, though. I don't see them dropping below that. And then maybe some controversy comes in here when I have NC State ranked as 11th. NC State made the Final Four last year. That was crazy with DJ Burns. And it all started when they hit the half-court shot because the Virginia guy missed a free throw that went all the way around and in. That was wild. That's the peak March Madness right there. But they just lost like all of their guys. I have them down as 11. But in that whole pack right there, I could see them being all the way as high as like 6. So, yeah. So don't get mad if you think they're too low. And then 12, I have SMU. They're a new team. Apparently, they have some good players. So I don't know too much about them. 13, Georgia Tech. 14, Florida State. 15, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's usually a little better. They just don't have many eye-popping things. They lost a lot of the guys to the transfer portal. And then Cal, BC, and Stanford rounding out the 18. None of them are that eye-popping on paper, and I just don't think they're going to be great teams this year. But who knows? Maybe one of them can prove me wrong. Okay, so now we're going to move to the Big East here. Big East, my opinion, best conference, top to bottom now in college basketball. DePaul and Georgetown always held them down, but I think they're going to be better this year. And outside of them, those 9 teams are all always going to be tournament contenders. They're all great basketball programs. So we're going to start off with UConn, the obvious top dog, back-to-back national champions. They always got a great system under Daniel Hurley. I think they're going to be number 1 again. And then number 2, we have Creighton. Creighton returns Kalkbrenner, and they also return many other of their key pieces from last year in their Sweet 16 run. They have Ashworth back, another 3-point shooter. They should be a solid team again. I have them at number 2. Number 3, I have St. John's. St. John's, mark my words, St. John's is going to be sneaky good this year. Kadari, Richmond, and Davis, those are like 2 of the top guards they got from the portal. They lost Soriano, I think, but still they're gonna be a great squad this year. And they're also the returning RJ Louise, who was a great freshman last year for them. They're gonna be scoring all over the place, maybe putting up like 90 a game. They already scored like 95 on Rutgers in a scrimmage. All right, so for number 4 we have Marquette. Marquette, they've been great the last couple of years. They lost Kolek, so Cam Jones is going to have to fill that void this year. He's going to have to be a huge piece of that team, but I think he can do it. I think they'll finish in the top 4. Just barely, though. Just barely over Xavier. Xavier is very high on most people's lists this year. I have them at 5. Some people have them as high as 3. Xavier Xavier's gonna have a good year along with Providence. Providence number 6. They're getting Bryce Hopkins back. Bryce Hopkins, many people forgot about him. He's a dog, great player. Averages like 15 and 9. So he'll be there. And number 7, I have Villanova. Many people even have them lower, but I do think Kyle Neptune, while I don't think he's the coach, I think he's going to have somewhat of a better year than his past years. And he's Nova, I think they might sneak in the tournament. If not, they're definitely going to be close. So I have them at 7. I think anywhere from like team number, I think the top 4 will definitely make it, or maybe even top 5. But number 6 through maybe even through like Georgetown, I think they all got great shots to make the tournament this year because the Big East is just that good of a conference. Then we have Butler at number 8, great home field advantage at Hinkle Fieldhouse, and Seton Hall at 9. They're dropping a bit because they lost a lot of their guys last year, like Kadari Richmond, who went to St. John's, but they'll still be fine. I think I still gotta have them above Georgetown and DePaul. DePaul got Chris Holtman. I have them as 11 as a new coach from Ohio State back in the days when he led Ohio State to some great tournament runs. DePaul's they got 13 transfers in the portal. Their entire team is new, so who knows what we're gonna get with them. And then Georgetown at number 10, Ed Cooley, second year with the Hoyas. I think it will be a better year for them, but I don't think it's going to be good enough to get them to like that top half of the Big East. Definitely not yet. So that's going to be it here for college basketball this week. So next week we're going to be going over how college football and how week 9 went. We're also going to give you our week 10 preview for next week. We're going to go over our spread picks and give you our new spread picks along with our confidence in Superdog. And then next week we'll be 1 week away from college basketball. So definitely we're going to go over some more great non-conference games and some great holiday tournaments along with the Big 12, Big 10, and the SEC. And we're going to go over our conference predictions in which each team is going to rank for all of those tournaments. So signing off here from Hoop and Helmets, I'm Lucas DeVries. See you next week with Brody Jacobson back for our week 10 preview of college football and our week 9 recap. Thank you.